Welcome to Beyond the Firewall, the business bytecast, where tech and business collide. Get expert insights, real-world strategies, and the latest trends in bite-sized episodes. Stay ahead, stay secure, and explore what's beyond the firewall. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Erez Zavlinoff from M.I.T Consulting, bringing you today one of our good friends, Ethan from Breach Secure Now. And we're going to be talking about everything around, all the threats and crazy things that are going on in the environment when it comes to phishing and cyber awareness and just the state of the landscape right now. We've been seeing an uptick on all of these threats going on, and I feel it's kind of important that we're starting to have this conversation more than just once in a blue moon. So, um, you know, why not bring it to the forefront and having this conversation today? So, thank you for coming, Ethan. It was a real pleasure, and thank you for making it out for our recording today.
Yeah, thanks, Raz. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to the conversation today. As you said, it's kind of a topic that we need to talk about every single day, right? Because every single day we are getting attacked. I've gotten 3 texts just today asking about my parcel getting stuck in customs that I did not ship, right? So it's something we have to keep on the forefront. So I'm excited to get through this.
So your package from Amazon isn't being held by customs, and you got to pay this fee. And
Surprisingly not, the amount of stuff. It's funny because I did just do all of my Christmas shopping, so I know that's exactly where they got all this information, right? Because every company that you buy from now is selling your data, and it's
yes,
going everywhere. So the second you buy something on Amazon, you're going to get those messages, and let alone Christmas season happens all the time. So to all those listening, no, your parcel is probably not stuck in customs unless you did bring something from overseas. Don't click that link, right?
yeah, it's really interesting because, you would think that by now people are a little bit more aware of what's going on when it comes to, did you place an order?
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, we live such crazy busy lives today where we can't keep track of every transaction, every order. And so there is that sense of uncertainty. And I think that a lot of individuals now are kind of uncertain of what's legit. Did I really order that? Maybe my spouse or maybe a colleague ordered a package and they didn't tell me about it. And I find that that is part of the challenge that most people have, and that's how they get vulnerable. What do you guys do these days to kind of help companies and individuals be more on track with some of these aggressive phishing campaigns?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's only so much that we can do, right? And what we try and do is center that around just constant education. Um, what we try and do is get you up to speed on what to look out for in a phishing email, or a phishing text message, or people getting voicemails now. So what to look out for, like if a email has a spoof domain saying it's coming from Amazon, but it's really coming from Amazon. They're replacing that last little O with an A. Classic spoof, right? Or that text message, they say it's, hi there, I've met you before. And it's clearly a fake phone number, right? Things that you would think are easy to find, but are also just as easy to miss. So we're trying to keep you educated on how to spot those, not only your day to day, but in the tools you use in the workplace as well. So education on both like Google and Microsoft hubs, because I know I personally use Gmail at home, but I also use Outlook at work. So knowing all the different kind of platforms that you are going to use is really important, and also what to look out for on them.
Wow, it's like a never-ending saga, right? We've got so many
Yeah,
platforms and we've got so many systems to be managing. It's kind of impossible to support all of those services, but we
right.
got to do it. Like we're not a single solution society, right? Like we're all, you know, taking part of using iPhones, Android, Microsoft. We use all these different technologies, and yet keeping track of that is pretty hard. And in a workspace, it's even more complex because even if you have 10 employees or you have 100 employees, you can imagine all those transactions happening and all those messages are coming into the
Mhm.
office, and from what we're seeing right now, most of the businesses out there, the breaches are happening at the end user, right? So the employee end of things is where a lot of these challenges and a lot of this content is being, compromised. So when we look at financial or data for that matter.
Yeah, we're talking about the attacks themselves, right? And obviously they're going after the end user, but bringing the conversation to what we're trying to watch out for is what these cyber criminals are going towards, right? They're trying to get your information and attack you so that they can install ransomware on your devices, uh, go after and try and get you to send a erroneous check to them as a false actor. So they're attacking you on every single front to do that. Uh, right? So that's their big push on it every single day. So we have all these different touch points throughout the day. You have to make sure that you're keeping it secure because, right, they're not just going to have a fun time. They're going after something for your business.
Right. So, talking about that, you know, what would be the best steps, like looking at this being as an end user, employee and a homeowner or whatever it is as an individual, what are some of the steps that we can sort of do to prevent some of these threats? Because like can't
Mm.
keep up with everything these days.
No, yeah, I think some of the more basic things that you can do. At least let's start with as an employee, right? What you can do to help protect yourself at work. Make sure that you're actually this is both at home as well. Get a password manager for yourself. Making sure that you're not using password 123 for everything um, is a really great thing to use, right? Can't just leave it on a sticky note anymore. You can't leave it in a notebook to just have a password manager so that you're not trying to keep up with all these different passwords or all these different customers that you have. Also, making sure that your software is up to date. Um, your work should be doing that for you, making sure you have reminders, but doing that at home as well. Those patches are not just there to give you a new UI. They're there to make sure that your security network is up to date. And so making sure you're doing that throughout the day is important. Something for personal that talking about holiday spirit, I always like to make sure I have a burner email, um, which is something easy you can do and it's free. Um, just create a separate Gmail account that you can start shopping on. Um, use it for different shopping sites. I always say don't go to Temu. That one has a ton of breaches all the time. I know you probably see those ads all over social media. But shopping sites like Amazon, Macy's, those big accounts always have breaches all the time. So making sure we're keeping our like actual PII off of that is a really um, piece to do that.
So you're actually saying for me to go online right now and get a burner email account, and instead of me buying all my stuff on my
Yeah.
usual personal email or whatever, not use an actual fake account just so that my data doesn't get compromised.
Yeah, circling back to like the topic from the start, how everything is interconnected. If you use your personal email for banking or to, finance a car, to go make these big life purchases that are going to tie to your real important information. If you sign into like a healthcare site with your personal email and then you go shop on one of these erroneous sites, if that site has a breach, you now have created a trail with your personal information back to all your bank accounts, which is what we're trying to protect at the end of the day. It's the same thing if you're thinking about at work, right? Why we don't use our personal email for work sites. And so you can keep all of your work information tied to work, right? Um, so yeah, definitely go get that burner account. I know that I use it all the time. Of course you protect your information, but you're also going to keep all those spam emails out of your personal inbox, which is nice.
Well, you know what? After all these years, I need to rethink about how I'm using my email accounts because I got like I think half a dozen email accounts right now, which is already hard to manage. But being in the business, I find it like you got to have you got to have separation between work, personal, the kids hockey team and stuff like that. And I find that like just the amount of content that comes in, I didn't like having it all in one spot. It was just too hard to keep up, and filters, and as much as a lot of that technology makes your life easier, it just now they're reaching me at the office and they shouldn't really reach me at the office, so I gotta find a way to get that out. But now I'm really thinking of separating my personal now with, call it, bogus content, or all the points, rewards, the
Yeah.
Costco newsletter that I get every week kind of thing. You almost want to have that. I'm thinking now I got to go separate all that stuff and rethink how I'm doing my personal mail strategy, which is a whole different level. You know,
Yeah.
uh, so with all that said, like if a company does get breached today, and that gives them a thread back, when we look at a business side of things, like I can't really not be using my corporate mailbox. Or are you saying now corporations have got to look at, some sort of a multi email approach as well? Or is there other tools that, they would use to help mitigate some of that risk? Because the office manager is ordering supplies from,
Yeah.
Office Max or Costco or whatever office supply retailer, and that retailer gets compromised. How does that affect the business?
Yeah. So good question. So first, I want to say I would not recommend that for businesses. That's more of a personal thing. Keep
Sure.
all your domains in one place for your business, right? So that you can have that important paper trail. That being said, you probably shouldn't be shopping on sketchy websites with your work email. So making sure that you have policies in place to protect that, so that your employees aren't going and you know utilizing their work email on social media sites, gaming sites, or sites I won't say on the podcast here. We've seen it all. So making sure you have rules in place that you're protecting your domain, right? And only using it on reputable sites as best as you can, right? That was a two-part question. Actually, maybe the second part there, right? We were talking about. Can you remind me the second half of your question there? Sorry about
Sorry about the separation. Like we talked about having, do you set up a separate mail account for that, and how do you deal with having, if your data is being compromised on a third party retailer, how do you mitigate how do you mitigate your risk? Because obviously there's a trail. If the office manager is doing purchase orders and then all of a sudden you've got a compromise on the retailer, and now
that.
they know, oh, this is the person that does all the purchasing. Now they're going to start
Mhm.
sending me these phishing emails saying, oh yeah, you just bought this $10,000 product, and now you got to pay your bill, and nobody recalls on that purchase. So now it's kind of like, okay, well, what are the tools that we can do to help mitigate some of that, external compromised business conversations?
So as far as physical tools go, we always recommend a strong spam filter first and foremost, right? If you know that you've had a breach and you know you're going to get phished, making sure you have the tools in place to clean out your inbox of some of that junk that will make its way through. Now, no filter is perfect, and as we know, cybersecurity landscape is changing every day to get more and more stronger, right? As and they build out attacks with AI and this, that, and the other. So that's when you can lean back on your education, which we talked about at the top, right? Making sure you know the signs that you're looking out for and are staying extra vigilant after you have a breach. Breaches, unfortunately, do not get reported immediately after they happen. Can take upwards of 200 days to even see that come through on your end, right? These attackers are smart, so they're not going to attack you the day after. I know we joked about the top; those text messages are not as sophisticated as other breaches that can occur, right? A sophisticated attack will have somebody sitting and just monitoring your email for a year, 2 years, maybe longer, right? So making sure you're staying vigilant every day is important, especially after a breach. Again, watching for emails that are coming through, making sure you're confirming with your fellow employees of any kind of asks for finances. Can we really sell this account? Can we confirm this? Confirming back with that business if they're scoping a business. That's where if it's ABC company, make sure they're not calling from ABCD company, right? Simple things like that.
Oh
It's
yeah.
really the best that you can do. But again, as far as physical tools, making sure you have that strong spam filter in place, making sure you're updating passwords after a breach as well. So your password manager will be able to do that.
Yeah, it's good points. Like when we look at what's going on today, number one, I would say is most companies today don't report when they're being compromised or when they have been compromised. I know that the rules and regulations are different in every country. In the US, it's different than Canada and in Europe as well. But the average small business is not going to want to be public about saying, hey, my law firm or my manufacturing company that, with 10, 20 people, um, how it has been compromised to some extent. Doesn't matter if it was like data
Yeah,
compromising or data encryption. Um, and then what happens is they go silent. They just go rogue, and then they just kind of brush it under the rug. And then all of a sudden, all that data has been breached. And then people are wondering, well, how did everybody get my information? And how is it that this is all happening when it's not public domain? And so I find that it's very common, a lot more common than people think. And having the tools to help mitigate that risk is important. But it's a fine balance, because I find that people are like, well, I just keep on throwing options and repairing in the sense of spam filters and password
yeah,
managers, and all of a sudden you almost need like a full-time person just to manage all these tools. And then we're not even sure if we're still 100% protected. But it is a good point, like we got to put these things in place. But
yeah,
unfortunately, stuff's going to happen, and people are still not going to be 100% even if you put everything to your
yeah,
business. So they can, you get into a bank, you can get into a general business, I always find.
yeah. I think it's the underreporting that you talked about there is kind of criminal when it comes to businesses nowadays, because small businesses will always have that feel of it's not going to be me, right? Even though 43% of all attacks that happened in 2024 have been on small businesses, that's reported multiple different places. I've just targeted small, like you said, that 10 to 20 range of employees, 43%, right? That's,
43%.
yeah, of
That's
all the
huge.
all
But
the reported attacks, and it's probably more because of the underreporting of it. It's an embarrassing thing to have your business be breached. So the more people talk about it, the less embarrassing it can be, and the more you can mitigate the rest from the start. Because if you have a breach, like I said, sweep under the rug, it's just gonna compound the effects that happened at the end of it all, where they're gonna keep on attacking you and keep on hitting you for $5,000, $10,000, and you don't realize it, and then all of a sudden you're out hundreds of thousands. It's quite sad.
yeah, it's incredible. And I think that, I know we haven't really touched on it at this conversation, but I only think it's going to get worse with AI kind of kicking in and getting
Absolutely.
smarter on the hacker side, right? Like they can replicate my voice right now. They can,
Yep.
they can get very resourceful
Yeah.
with its capabilities. That is incredible, and how it's going to accelerate the advancement of this. What
It's
have you
terrible.
seen on that?
I've seen a lot. Actually, I saw a funny story come out yesterday where there was an AI created to talk to spam callers, which is kind of funny. This is a little tangent, but a company in the UK just created it's a voice of an old woman who you can put on the phone with a spam caller and talk with them, leave them busy for hours. It's pretty funny. Though I those stories always make me so upset because you should just never tell somebody that you have a live phone number when they're calling you or texting you. Um, but that's beside the point. Um, totally agree. The advent of AI is making this a very scary time. Um, right? They can now type perfect emails where we used to think, okay, that comma is out of place, that grammar is wrong. This is probably a phishing email. Now we try and teach people that you should probably look for perfect emails. Those are most likely going to be AI and going to not be a real human reaching out to you. It's probably spam. Um, like you said, references to video AI. Somebody FaceTiming you as a video, which now is probably not going to be as suspect. I probably suss that out pretty easily, but based on the advancements, it's going to get quite scary. And then building of profiles becomes that much easier for a threat actor, where they can pump an AI full of your information, understand your whole social media, what you like to do, how you communicate with your peers, be able to replicate somebody that you would work with for you know talk to on a day-to-day basis. Get right into you, right?
Yeah, it's incredible. I don't even know where we're going to be with the whole AI thing and cyber hacking and vulnerability and all the assessments there and how we're going to protect our operations and
Now,
services around that. But definitely unregulated today, and I know that there's a lot of controversy when you read about news and AI and where it's going to go, and
yeah,
where legislation is yet to happen. So I can only see, it's going to be a little bit of a battle till they figure out what the
definitely.
rules are going to be like.
And I think it's important too, just talking on the education side too, as a day-to-day human who's not in IT or not in the AI spaces to learn about it. As much as you see on the news, it's easy to push it away and say that's far away. That's you know, AI is not real yet. It's just a good computer program. It is real. It is happening. Start to use it so that you can understand how it's going to affect you, right? You can start using it really simply. I do not deem myself as an AI expert, as surprising as that is as someone in IT. Like everybody has at this point said that they would be an expert. I use ChatGPT to help me write some emails. I use it to do a lot of personal things. I got a good recipe on it the other day. But just being able to do some simple things like that and learn how to be a little bit more efficient, not only help you, through a security incident, but also help you in your workplace too. So definitely make sure you're out there learning.
Yeah, I love the word expert. When you look at AI today, and you got to think about this, like, yeah, ChatGPT has been out for a little over a year, maybe what
Yeah,
is it, year and a half, and Copilot was launched early 24. Gemini was relaunched by Google less than 6 months ago.
yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, under sports and under conventional methodology, is you're only an expert if you've spent, like, what is it, 10,000 hours or something like that.
I think
You
that's the number. Yeah.
physically could have not been an expert in less than 6 months using a
Yes.
technology and calling yourself an expert on anything today when it comes to this technology, unless you wrote the code.
Right.
So, we're using it as well on a daily basis. We're learning something new every day. Even our Microsoft account managers and stuff like that are presenting us new ways of using Copilot and Gemini. Um, but even that, like, I can't really call myself an expert because, we may have, even if I have 1,000 hours of usage on that, I'm still
Yeah.
nowhere near being a matter expert on this technology. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
But we should.
I would say you got to be playing around with it. Maybe you're proficient in the tool, but
Yeah.
I don't know who can call themselves an expert.
We should at least
So
strive to be novices on it, right? Maybe not go all the way to expert. Um,
yeah,
but
definitely. So
yeah,
it's cool.
just
Yeah.
to
So, you
security.
know,
That's. Oh,
yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
I want to say one more thing just on like utilizing AI is um, regular day to day. I had a conversation with my father-in-law over Thanksgiving about his use of AI, and also my mother too, which was funny enough. But they both utilize it in their company in very different ways. Where one company has kind of put some rules in place. They don't allow everybody to use ChatGPT at work because there's no rules and regulations behind it. So they created their own GPT, um, with rules and regulations behind it. Because I think the rule is once you buy that license through ChatGPT, then you can get those actual protections behind it, where your data is not input into the grand scheme of things. My father-in-law in his company, he utilizes it every day, and they do not have any rules in place. So when I was talking with him about it, he did not know about that. He just been uploading all of his client data into AI, which is the same thing as putting it into Google or anywhere else, where once it's out there, it's out there. So being concerned, like if you're using this at work, you're not putting in data um, that is not yours, right? Or is your client's, 'cause that could obviously cause a breach and the information is just not there. So an important distinction to make when utilizing it at work versus at,
Oh yeah, and I see it all too often out there as we're in the workspace, right? A
yeah,
lot of companies are using ChatGPT as a safe and secure product. And the reality is that if you've taken a look at any of the Fortune 5000s, they've banned that service almost across the board. I think there may be one or two exceptions when they're doing public research in marketing. But from what I do know, and I have a few clients in that enterprise space, usage of ChatGPT at this point in time is like not happening almost anywhere. And then a lot of people also need to realize that like Microsoft actually owns a part of ChatGPT and it's kind of embedded in Copilot. So like if you're going to actually need ChatGPT or let's call it the chat interface of it and the functionality maybe not 100% the same with integration with third party tools, but you can go from private to public and it's part of your group policies and security
right,
that when you set it up, you actually can set up each user's rights and permissions. And I just tell customers, I'm like, like if you're going to actually use this tool, use the native product that's part of your ecosystem. So if you're on Google and you're on the Google Workspace, get Gemini. It's a phenomenal product this time around. From what I heard, also it's got bigger data sets. And again, we got to remember that Google's been around the longest, so they're actually tying in some of their infrastructure there. And Microsoft didn't want to build that out, didn't have the ecosystem and the infrastructure there, so they just acquired a big chunk of ChatGPT, and that's how they catapulted in from nothing to something very quickly and was smart of them. But we definitely need to use those two tools, especially within your workspace, because I think that's going to help reduce risk. And I think it's going to help reduce, exposures of uploading, private corporate data.
right. Totally agree.
Yeah, no, for sure. Um, so one of the things that I've actually been intrigued by is, these policies and how companies structure that and how do they enforce it. What have you seen as common trends, like, hey, look, we're not going to use chat gpt in the office, we don't want you to go on these wrongful sites, I don't want you to be buying office supplies on Timu even though it's like 1 cent a pen, you
Yeah,
know um what do you see as common good effective practices for businesses to build out policies? And I know you guys offer some sort of guidance around that as part of your service and offerings, but how do you see that being evolved and how's that changing rapidly, I'm sure?
yeah. So just the idea of putting cybersecurity policies in place. Everybody's had HR policies for ever, really, right? Don't hit your coworker, right? Simple things like that. Um, but now it's having rules and regulations in place on how to actually use technology. And these just aren't like, please like use a password. It says, make sure you have MFA enabled. Make sure you are updating your computer on a frequent basis. Make sure that you're not using your work devices at home. Um, those kind of policies are becoming more and more commonplace. What we use internally is we go based off of this compliance. That's a government regulation here in the US, which tends to fall in line with every other acronym for compliance out there. So we utilize those as a kind of boilerplate template that our clients can utilize. Start to put some basics in place. Now everybody's going to be different based on your setup. So definitely making sure that you're reading through and putting like the right things in place for your company. But um, right, those are the kind of basics that we want to see people start to utilize. Right, and you want to with those policies have an action plan in them as well. So when you do have a breach, that you're following those rule sets that you put in place. Maybe we know we had a breach. We're going to make sure we lock down everything, that we're updating passwords, that we're updating all of our different services, and that we're talking with our MSP to make sure that our backups are right, and that we can get back to whole after the breach is done. That's a very important part. This is out there that only 38% of you know uh, small businesses have some sort of action plan in place. So it's something that we really need to get up because, as you talked about before, with the amount of attacks going on, you want to be able to match that with a plan of action.
Wow, that's incredible. That 40% of businesses, less than 40, did you say less than 40% of businesses have a even a one pager saying, like
Some, yeah,
it doesn't have to
that's
be complicated. I'm assuming you don't need to lawyer up for this. You don't need to get a lawyer to write
no,
this
no,
stuff. So
no.
this is
There's
like a one pager. Here's our policies. Don't go on not approved
yeah,
websites. Don't use AI that's not approved.
it's,
And
yeah,
respect your internet usage just like you would on an employee kind of stuff.
no, not at all. You don't even need to be a part of a compliance like framework to have that. And you should just have those rules in place for your employees. If you have two employees under you or 200, right? And talking about AI, you can go to ChatGPT and ask them to write you up a basic one. There's lots of examples out there. Um, the template two provider, like I said, we just have like little red lines. You put your information there, make sure it lines up, so you have something in place that aligns with some sort of governing body. But
Yeah,
it's incredibly crucial, and not a lot of people have it.
I think
So that's
every company needs to have some sort of a plan. It's almost like a fire safety plan that you have at home. Like if there is a fire, you got to make sure you know where the emergency doors are. The kids need to know where to go. The office, it's the same thing. Like you have to run those safety drills.
and we
Crazy not to have like a one pager just to say, hey, look, these are the guidelines of our business. You need to
yeah.
follow them or else, because that can put the whole company in jeopardy.
It also protects you after the fact too. If you're a company that has cyber insurance or is looking to get help through a breach post attack,
Yeah.
making sure that you can prove that you have rules in place that you were following and that um, everybody in your company did follow the rules is a really good way to like protect yourself. I always liken it to like car insurance, which is a lot more easy for people to understand. They've had it forever. It's like having your seatbelt on, right, in a car accident. When you
Right.
sign up for car insurance, you tell XYZ company that you're going to be wearing your seatbelt and be a safe driver, but they're going to investigate. If you're not wearing your seatbelt, they're not paying out, right? It's the same with the cyber insurance policy or compliance plan. If you're not following those rules to a T, you're not going to get that payout, and they're not going to get help you out through that breach afterwards. So it's incredibly important to have those rules in place and act as that seatbelt, saying yes, we were following the rules and we were doing everything we were supposed to.
It's funny you say that because I'm hearing a lot more these days that companies, insurance companies for that matter, are starting to refuse to pay out insurance coverages because people weren't exactly honest brokers when it came to saying, you have all these policies in place.
Yeah,
And then because it wasn't documented and it wasn't implemented and it wasn't enforced, they basically say, we have nothing to go against you had anything. So we're not going to pay anything out. So you're paying all this money for insurance, yet you don't have everything that you need in place to actually have the insurance. And yet when you need it, they won't cover you because you basically didn't follow the rules and guidelines and the T's and C's of the policy.
yeah. And those rules and guidelines are there as basics, right? A lot of the rules are have policies in place. Take security awareness training, have MFA, which you should be following whether or not you have a policy in place, right? So they're not too hard to follow. It's just, oh, I know I need cyber insurance, so I'm going to sign off on that. Which is it's too bad that people aren't wise enough to following the rules, right? Because
Oh
they kind
yeah.
of just prevent the breach in the first place.
Well, even two-factor authentication is now being hacked in. And there's been a lot of breaches around that because they can compromise SIM cards now, right? Like every time we think we're getting smarter on our end, they're just going around and actually trying to figure ways around what we're putting in place. So like I think it was in Forbes magazine this week that, there's a tool out there that hackers can use to compromise your Microsoft two-factor authentication by mimicking your SIM card or something like that. It's pretty impressive on that. So it's like now we need to elevate the next round of the new two-factor authentication to some new encryption that Microsoft's offering now today to increase that. I
Yeah,
can
that's
only imagine how many companies don't even have two-factor authentication enabled.
yeah, right. And just having the basics, and now with that new news, I actually hadn't seen that about the breach that, but people are gonna say, oh, that turn off two factor, so you can be
It's
safe.
not a breach of the Microsoft platform. What they're doing is they're scraping, from what I understood from the articles, it's kind of like scraping accounts that are on the Microsoft platform to see which environments have weak two-factor authentication, or they're using just text messaging,
Yeah,
and it basically gives them easy access to just saying this one's just using a SIM card, here's the SIM number, and you can basically clone a SIM card now and eSIM it and call it a day. So you push a password reset now, or you push whatever, and it goes to that phone number, and it could be at 3 in the morning when you're not going to get the text message. And it's really intriguing. I gotta get further down the rabbit hole on that security breach. It's not a breach, but like again, it's a loophole. And yeah, I gotta check that out because I've been
yeah.
seeing a lot more activity around that.
That's the scary part of just being in the cybersecurity space, right? And going back to just having a base cybersecurity knowledge, right? Because we know that those bad actors are staying a step ahead at this point, right? They're moving fast, and we can only move just as fast with them as technology grows. So, for everyone not in the IT space, having a baseline understanding is how you're going to be able to protect yourself from that. Because if you do have that fall prey to that MFA breach, or not breach per se, the loophole, right? Being able to check your email the next day and then report that accordingly is like your next step. But if you don't ever realize that, and that can go completely unplanned, and that breach lasts a year. And list goes.
Yeah, for sure. So without going into we'll call it the doom and gloom stuff, one of the things I'm hearing is like AI and services like what Breach Secure have to do these days. How is like AI going to help companies protect themselves in respect to awareness training, and also being more up to date with the tools? I think that there's going to be a huge opportunity to use AI technologies and products and services like yours. Not doing a crazy plug on it for you guys, but I think that you guys are at the forefront of this. And what do you guys see as like, okay, we're at this transition period now. I've got this AI, I've got this, I'm not going to call it legacy because this is all relatively new stuff. It's less than 36 months, 24 months old in that respect. But now we're going to be meshing all these new cool toys and tools to say, okay, we've got this great opportunity to help, you know, mobilize every employee to really be more secure, be more aware, be more at the forefront of that, so that we're not always walking on glass trying to say, okay, am I next on the hit list? So how let's shed some light on what the opportunity is for embracing some of the tools out there today to help protect their business.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of loose back to the conversation I had before about becoming that novice, if you will, right? Not being an expert. You don't expect to be an expert in cybersecurity or being an expert in AI. Being able to understand and work in the environment that we have today, right? I think that's what we're trying to do, and providing training to everybody on a day-to-day basis, give you up-to-date information on the world that you're working in. And this is not just getting up onto the newest Windows and understanding the UI, but understanding how to use it and be dangerous. Be somebody that can be like a human firewall for your company. Is what we're trying to really build everybody up for. So when we talk about like education through AI, being able to understand how to use it, so that when these tools do come out in the future, that can help you to say, all right, the AI scan this email, make sure it's not a phishing attempt. You'll be able to utilize those tools once they're more readily available. Going from there, because if you fall behind now and those tools come out, you're not going to be able to use them as easily and be able to adjust to more future changes that are about to come.
Right. So just get in the playing field, start using these tools,
Yeah,
and at least understand what the potential is by getting involved. You just can't sit in the background and hope that it's going to go away.
it's not right. It's just going to keep getting more and more advanced every single day, every week.
Okay. So no head in the sand here. Like we really got to get
Well,
involved, even if it's in the kindergarten level. You got to get out there and you got to start playing in the sandbox, and start realizing that this is going to be part of your life in some capacity for now.
yeah. Well, we not to be crass about it, but you see that those that are getting attacked right now are those that don't understand how to utilize the tools that we have right now, which is just the basics of Outlook or G Suite. Right? If you don't understand how to use those, you're a vulnerability. So as we move into the AI world, if you don't understand how to utilize it, you're going to potentially be a vulnerable person to those attacks, right? We see that with our grandparents falling through these attacks every single day, and children as well. Like I have younger siblings who are just now getting spam messages and trying to understand this, and I have to teach them like, no, this is not just your friend from an Xbox. This is somebody trying to get into your new bank account that you just got, right? Even though they only have 200 in there, trying to get rid of it.
Sure.
So
Yeah, and
it's
they're an easy soft target, right? At the end of the day, a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old kid is going to be a soft target, and in a corporation, usually, the new employee is a soft target too. I'm hearing that somehow they're able to. One of the new strategies I'm hearing, and actually, an executive from a company just told me this. Every time they have a new hire and that employee adds themselves on LinkedIn or any sort of social media that they just started a new job, they're always getting fished at some point in time or another within the next 2 weeks saying, oh, yeah, this is the president. You got to send me gift cards. Or, yeah, listen, I was working with your previous employee that was taking your position. They were promising me payment on this invoice. We need it now, or we're sending the company into collections. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, they get all panicky because they don't know what's going on yet, and yet apparently there's been a few employees that have fallen for that trick because they don't know all the ropes yet. They're very new to the company and they don't want to rock the boat, or they want to make the boss happy. And so they figure ways to get things paid or push through. And next thing you know, they're part of the unfortunate circumstances there. So, you know,
yeah,
looking at this whole, conversation, and I would say, if you aren't considered an expert in awareness and cyber prevention there, it's definitely part of what the company does at Breach Secure. What would you say is the top three or top five things that we can summarize it and distill it down to, in the sense of, these are the top three or top five things that every company should do for 2025?
let's focus on being novices. I'm going to keep coming back to that one. Learning your tools that you have in front of you, I think should be one of the most important things. Making sure that all of your employees understand how to use their MFA, how to use their password manager, how to basically use Outlook. All of those basics they should be focusing on. Um, I think would be implementing those. You have not. Um, so doing that, right? And, should put some levels of security behind it. If you have not gone through a risk assessment before, please go through that. Follow some sort of compliance guideline out there. I'd referenced this earlier. That's part of our program where you can get those policies and procedures and do a risk assessment. See where you have gaps. Even if you think you have a perfect thing in place, maybe there's some tools that you haven't implemented yet that you should to protect yourself. And then lastly, we had touched on this earlier. Um, putting policies and procedures in place, making sure you have some rules and a guide for if you do get a breach, which is, inevitable that some of your data will get out there, that you know how to respond afterwards, um, and have a good game.
Amazing. Amazing. And I won't do a shameless plug, but I will say that, if you don't have an in-house IT person, get somebody who's familiar with putting all this stuff together because it's not expensive. I think it's key and critical that when you need help, you put the white flag up and you get somebody out there to come in and support you, even if it's a one time transaction and you do have somebody on staff within the company. They may not be familiar with setting up all of these processes. And it's sometimes just a good to get an engagement with somebody to come out there and just set that up for you one time. And then that in-house person, even if it's a controller or office manager, chances are they can most of the time run with it after the process has been set up. So yeah, no, I agree with you on almost all. I agree with you all those things because I think that that is a common, easy, actionable item list that we should all embrace for 2025.
Absolutely.
Ethan, I want to thank you for your time. I think this was super informative. I think everybody out there, if they're going to listen to this and have gotten this far into our podcast, they should have at least some serious action items that they can go back to the office and, check some boxes and at least have some action items that they can go back to their own in-house team and or management team and, start implementing that for 2025. I want to thank you. I want to thank Breach Secure for your time and effort and support and all the knowledge that you provide with us and our firm. So thank you again. And we look forward to having another one of these in the new year, maybe with some new stuff as it
Yeah.
comes out.
Awesome. I appreciate the time, Reds.
Thanks,
Ben,
man.
have a happy holidays. Yeah.
Thank you. You too, man. All the best.